Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do another breakdown of the pits. I'm going to do pit number 24 South. Before I get into it, if you guys are not a subscriber to the channel yet, if you would please become a subscriber and like the video. If you guys like the content I'm putting out, leave any comments you have that helps get the content out there on Facebook or on YouTube. Sorry about that. On YouTube. Helps it get in the suggested videos, helps the content get out there to more people. So now let's get into Pit 24 South. Where is it located exactly? It is on 110th and Center Star. 110th, a lot of people might be familiar with it as Claythorne Lodge. It is just a mile, or about 3/4 of a mile, half a mile north of Claythorne Lodge. So if you're coming outside of Hallowell, it's the next paved road just west of Hallowell. A lot of people know where Angelo's Deli is. Just go to the next paved road to your west, and then you will go north. I believe it is 2 miles or 3 miles north right there. You'll see it zooming in on it. And it's Pit 24 South. I've only been in there twice. All the times I've ever fished it all these years, it's just been in there twice. That's been within the past year. I was in there last November, and I was in there just yesterday, which was March 11th. So now I only average 9 fish. That's per boat in there. So that's usually 2 people in a boat. I only average 9 fish average. And I've never caught one over 18 inches. I've heard of some 5-pounders coming out of there and 4-pounders, but I have never seen one or caught one yet. It is 18 acres, so it's a decently good size pit. There's a lot of shoreline in it. There's a lot of cover in it. There's a lot of laydowns in there, a lot of brush in the middle. There's just brush all over the place. There's cover everywhere. They got grass. There's grass underneath the water. There ain't a whole lot of grass mats on top, but there's a lot of grass under the water, a lot of the good grass in there. So it's real healthy. So it ought to have really good fish in it, but my guess is why it doesn't is because of there's not really a whole lot of shad in there. There's not a whole lot of big shad in there would be my guess. So the ramp condition is really good, and it's got plenty of parking, but be sure to use the ramp in the middle. As soon as you come in off the west road, you'll see a ramp right there to the south. That is also into that pit, but that ramp isn't as good. So be sure to go all the way to the back to the ramp that's in the middle, all the way back into the east. And that is the ramp that's got a good ramp. It's got a good parking area right there. And then if it's, usually there's not too many boats in there, but if you have to, you can park along the edge of the pit road, which is plenty big enough to park there too. So it's a great camping spot as well. It's got lots of room in there. It's got a great spot to pull up your boat to the bank. So there's no problems with that. Real easy to go in, unload the boat by yourself. So now let's get into the picture here. The first picture here is going to be all the spots I'm going to talk about. The blue is going to be the far north section. That's what I'm going to call the far north section. The green is going to be the middle section. And then the red is going to be the south section I'm going to talk about. And the yellow you see in there, that's kind of a swampier area back in there. I'm not sure. I know I haven't ever been in there when you can get into this area. So I'm not sure if the water's up if you can get in there or not. So I'm not real sure if you can or cannot. And then the purple there, that is the ramp you want to use. That is the better ramp of the 2 ramps. So now let's jump into the second picture, which is the blue area. This is my favorite part of this pit, guys. This is my favorite part of this pit because this is the deeper section of this pit. And we actually got beat in a pit tournament here back in November from the guys that fished this area exclusively during the entire tournament. I did not go up into this area. I went to the south because I'd never really been in there, so I wasn't really for sure what it was like. So I went out yesterday and I went in there, and you're going to see some footage after I get done talking about this area of what this area looks like and some of the fish I'd caught in there. So the red area there, that is my favorite right there. There's a lot of good grass underneath the water, and it's 8 to 12 foot deep, which was really good for right now when I fished it yesterday because it's a good staging area right in there. And from what I've seen, the bass are still in winter pattern. They're not really starting to school up yet in their pre-spawn patterns. The water temp was only 50, but they're getting pretty close to starting to school up. I think it's going to be anytime here soon within the next couple of weeks depending on how the weather holds up. And even if the weather don't start holding up, these fish know that the spawn is coming and they know it's getting to be their time. So they're going to be starting to push into them pre-spawn patterns. Once it really starts hitting about 52, 53, 55 degrees, they're really going to start schooling up and really going to start feeding up really good. So that right there, that is where I caught the better fish in this area yesterday. I caught them. I was actually out doing a promotional video with a Ned rig, a 2K Jigs finesse Ned rig, and a 2-inch big hammer. So I was kind of doing a promotional video in there on that. I did throw a jerkbait a little bit on some of the ones I've seen on the front-facing sonar. You'll see a video of that just to see if I could get an idea of what size of the bigger returns I was seeing of those fish that I was seeing on the front-facing sonar. And the biggest one I caught of there was just about 14.5 inches, so it wasn't real big. So I'm not really sure where the bigger fish are hiding out in there that everybody talks about. Maybe they're just not eating yet. They're not pushed up in the pre-spawn patterns. I did see lots of 9 and 10-inch fish and lots of crappie as well on the front-facing sonar. So it's got good crappie in there. I did catch one about 13 inches of crappie on a jerkbait as well. So it's got good crappie in it there too. Now the blue. Already? Yeah. Oh, there's one. Ooh. Little guy. A little bigger. They're getting bigger. A little bit bigger. That one ate it good. He swallowed it. He's like it. You sure you don't want this color? Nope. And there's another one, guys. Ned rig, 2-inch big hammer, 2K Jigs, finesse Ned rig. Look at that beautiful little fish, guys. Might be little, but he's a beautiful little guy. Go tell your mama we're looking for her. Didn't see anything happen or not. Oh gosh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, me around bush. He ain't that big. No, he had me around a tree. And I thought it was big there for a minute. I was like, oh man. It is bigger. They're getting bigger progressively. There's another one, guys. 2-inch big hammer. Trout color on 2K Jigs. Finesse Ned rig, guys. Look at that. They catch his fish. A little 2-inch. Look at that. That's the results, folks. Got one. Oh! Look at that giant. Look at that, guys. Ned rig. There's one. That's a little better one there. That's a decent one. Better than what it was anyway. Ain't that big. Felt bigger. Still a little better one. There's another one, guys. Look at that. That's a little trout color. 2-inch swim bait. Big hammer. Oh, there's another one. It's a feisty little one there. Getting a little bigger. It's 3 in a row, guys. Switch over that trout color and they're eating it. Look at that. There's another one. They're eating it good, guys. I'm live scoping them out here. My wife thinks it's fireballs, but it's fish out there. Need to get a little bigger ones though. Oh, that's a fish. Oh! I don't think he's that big. No, he's not that big. Not too bad. A little bigger. A little bit bigger. About the same size as the last one. See that, guys? Smacked another big hammer. 2-inch big hammer trout color. 2K jigs. Ned finesse rig. That's a big return. I'm gonna try to catch that with this jerk bait. I'm gonna try to see if I can catch that darn thing to see what size that is so I can get a comparison. Oh, there's one. A little bit better, guys. See it on a live scope and through the jerk bait out there. And that time, that's a Mega Bass Vision 110. Seen a little bigger returns on the screen, and that was a smaller one that came and ate it. Not the bigger ones. Them bigger ones are 3 or 4 pounders. He's got it this time. There we go. Ooh, man. That's a better fish. Maybe. Nope, he's giving up now. He ain't as big. As big as I thought he was. Still decent, though. Ooh, man, that time he was not letting it get away. He swallowed it that time. Swallowed it. Once again, there's another one. 2-inch big hammer. Hold him out there for you guys to see him. There we go. That's why you throw the 2-inch big hammer on a 2K jigs Ned rig. Finesse Ned rig. It's not a big area. This is one of the deepest parts of this pit right there. And that's what kind of told me they're not in full winter pattern yet, because there wasn't a whole lot of them back in this area. I think I caught 2 of them back in there. But there's just a lot of structure. Same way as the one before this. There's a lot of structure up on the bank. There's a lot of trees out. So there's just so much to explain in this pit. And I've only fished it twice, so I can't give you any like great trees that hold fish all year round. There's just a lot of stuff in this pit to fish. If you want to, like, if you're a guy that likes to throw up to laydowns and fish cover, this is a great pit to go to. Now, the green dots in there, look for the bass bedding in these areas in the spring. And also in the summertime, look in these areas. Say, if I'm not sure how thick that grass grows in there in those areas, but there's also that structure in there. And get up in that structure when the sun comes up in the summertime or late spring, and get up in there and flip up into those trees. And those bass should be hiding under there ready to ambush anything that comes in. And when the sun comes out, they're going to get in there to get into that shade. And then the yellow dots, that's just kind of, that's not exactly where the brush is, but that's kind of where the brush is all over in there. There's quite a bit of it in there, not as much as some of the other parts. The south end of the pit has a lot more brush in it. And then the white, look for these bass out here in the winter. This is where I caught them the other day, which was March 11th, which was yesterday. And this is where I caught them out. They weren't up on the bank. They were pushed out in these areas right out in front of these pockets. And then kind of the steeper banks off on the south over there is where I caught some of them as well. I caught 3 of them back to back. I kind of seen them on the front facing sonar. Didn't see them eat the Ned rig, but I seen them there, so I knew they was there, but I never actually seen them eat it on the front facing sonar, but I did catch them from seeing them there. So now let's get into our third picture here, which is going to be our second area, which is going to be the green area. And that'll be our third picture. This is my second favorite part of the pit. This is where I did really good last winter, or last fall in there in November. The red, that is my favorite area in this pit, which was late fall. It's good in the winter, and it'd be good in the early spring as well. I didn't catch anything in there yesterday, but they had kind of shut off by the time I got back in there. And there's just a lot of trees out in the middle out in there. They're just everywhere out in there. They're out in the middle. They're up on the bank. They're out just all over the place. And there wasn't a whole lot of fish in that area, though, yesterday that I could see. I know when I was there last fall, there was a lot of shad in there. The wind kind of helped that to kind of push them back in there. and keep those shad in there. And that's why the bass were in there a little better last spring in that area, or last fall. Sorry about that. And then the yellow dots, that is all the submerged brush. That's not the exact locations, but that's just kind of like all the submerged brush that is out in there. And then there's a lot of it up on the bank as well. This pit's just full of brush all over the place. And then the white, look in these areas in the winter out there. Look at these for, a jerk bait. Not sure if the A-rig will work in there. You can throw it around. A swim bait. I was throwing the Ned rig with a little 2-inch swim bait and catching them on it. And then the jerk bait as well last winter. So look in there with those suspending baits, also a jig. In the summertime, they'll get down in those submerged brush down in there. So look in those areas in the summer and the winter right there. Then the green dots, look for these bass, like I said, during the spawn. That usually happens about 60 to 70 degrees right in there is when they start pulling up in there. And even in the summertime, up in that brush, if it's up in it, get up there and flip up into that brush into tight cover. Get a little punk, 2K jigs, little punk, a finesse jig, get a big hammer ringer worm, flip it up in those trees, guys. Flip anything you want up in those trees, but those would be my recommendations, would be a 2K jigs, little punk, or a big hammer ringer worm. Flip it up in that brush, and there should be bass up in that brush. So now let's get to the fourth picture, which is the red area, which is the south area I circled in the first picture. Now, I'm not sure. I don't have anything circled here because I can't really pinpoint anywhere that is the best in this area. I'd only fished it once, and there's just so much here, I can't really pinpoint anything. This is the area of the pit that just has brush absolutely everywhere. I mean, there's a lay down like every 20 feet. There's brush out in the middle. There's brush. Just all over the place. It's just kind of overwhelming. When I first went there last November, I was trying to flip everything, see if they were still up in there. That wasn't in there. They was pulled out. But I want to go in here in the summertime and get up there and flip this stuff and just really pick it apart and see which one of these areas really holds the fish better this time of year, or that time of year in the summertime, late spring, late summer, anytime down through there, they should be in there. And then in the wintertime, look out in those middle areas for them as well. In late spring, early spring, wintertime, late fall, look in those areas out in the middle, just kind of like the north area up there. Look out in the middle of the pit out there for them, because there's a lot of grass out there in the middle as well. So there's just so much in this pit. It just really has everything an angler would want to fish. If you want to go in there and fish structure, this is the pit to go to, guys. Now, that's pretty much everything with that area, because I can't pinpoint out anything really to help you guys and tell you a better part of that area. Like I said, I've only been in this pit twice, so I still got a lot more to learn and to do. I'm going to hit it a little more this year. Try to get a little bit more information about it. Try to understand this pit just a little bit better. Didn't do too good last pit tournament in there. I got closer to last place, so it wasn't real good in there. So I'm not real proud of myself for what happened in there. But for never seeing the pit, it wasn't too bad. If I was to go in there again in the wintertime or early spring or late fall, I would go to that north section. The first section I talked about, that is the area I'd focus on. That is where the guys that won it was at, and I could see why when I went in there. There was just fish all over the place back up in that area. Now, fishing wise, I kind of mentioned what to do. The springtime, I would throw a little punk jig in a blue crab color. And then the spring and summer, I would be flipping a big hammer ringer worm and magic bug is what I would be flipping up in those bushes. Get yourself a 1/4 ounce weight. Get yourself, a 3/8 ounce weight, depending on what you need to get up in there in that brush, depending on how thick the moss is to get up through that, and the grass to get in there to it. Go to the heavier weight if it's the thicker the cover. Now, even in the summertime, a 10-inch worm, I think, would work really good in there, especially with that grass out in the middle. If they pull out in there in the middle, you could throw a 10-inch worm out in those areas. Same with that ringer worm. You can throw it out in those areas. Now, on a 10-inch worm, I would go with a lighter weight. Same way with the ringer worm. If you're fishing it out, not throwing it up into the structure, I would go with the lighter weight because it's got a slower fall. And in these pits, they like the slower falls. Now, In the fall, winter, and early spring, I would stick with the jerk baits. Jerk bait has worked very well with me in that pit. Jerk bait wise, if you guys watch my videos, I would go with the Vision 110 in there. I wouldn't really go with the Berkley Stunner because it don't really get deep enough unless you're in that very north area. Is about the only area where it got about 15, 16 foot. Matting got up to like 17 foot back in there. So, but that Berkley Stunner gets a little bit deeper. What's a Berkley Stunner? 112 plus is the one I like to throw. I haven't really thrown there, just 112. But the Vision 110 is the one I would throw in there in Pro Blue. That seems to be the go-to color. It works really good in there. It works good in clear water, dirty water. But they were really wanting it the other day in there. There are a couple of them that I did throw out. I didn't throw them much because I was doing a promotional video for, the Ned 2K Jigs Ned rig and also the Big Hammer 2-inch swim bait. So focus on those. A 3-inch swim bait would probably work in there in the summertime or the wintertime as well. Same with the summertime. You could throw that. A swim jig is another one you could throw in there. Throw a 2K Jigs deposit swim jig and put a 3-inch Big Hammer on the back of that. And the action is amazing on that. Now, a chatterbait, you could try it out there in the middle, but there's a lot of structure. So you're probably going to get hung up a lot with that chatterbait because you can't really rig it weedless and it ain't got a weed guard on it. That's where the swim jig, I think, would come into play better. A spinnerbait might work in there as well if you slow roll the spinnerbait in the wintertime out in there. So another thing I forgot to mention is a drop shot. A drop shot is what the guys wanted on last November, and I could see that from when I was in there yesterday on the live scope. They were just sitting up off the bottom about a foot or two, and that's where that drop shot would really come in. It's how they were just sitting up off that grass. I mean, the grass was about 6 inches to a foot up off the bottom out in there. It was, I'm not sure what kind of grass it was, but it was out there in the middle and grown up about a foot or two. So I would go, that drop shot would be killer down in there. And I would throw a Big Hammer salt shaker worm. I would throw a 5-inch or a 4-inch Big Hammer salt shaker worm on a drop shot rig out there. And I would throw that in Magic Bug color. That's just an awesome color. The same way with the ringer worm, the Magic Bug is a great color to go to. And then another thing that might work really good in there is a wacky rig, guys, because it's not real deep through that whole pit and that grass down there, and it'll fall slow. And that wacky rig, especially in the springtime, should work really well. You won't be able to really cast it up there in the cover. They do make some wacky rig hooks that are weedless, though, so you can throw it up in there. Another one is a Nico rig, which is similar to the drop shot or to the wacky rig, except you get a little weight in the tail so it falls a little bit faster. And you can throw that, if, like I said, if you get yourself a wacky rig hook with the weed guard on it, you can throw it up into that cover and not have to worry about getting hung up. So hopefully this will help you guys out. So if you go out fishing next time, once it warms up here a little bit, summertime, late springtime, this would be a great pit to hit, guys. I've heard there's big fish caught out of here, lots of 4 and 5 pounders being caught out of here. I've never caught one, but I haven't been in there during these months. But I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to make it a point to go back in there this year again and try to get one of these bigger fish out of there and hopefully catch it on YouTube or catch it on the GoPro so I can post it to YouTube and show you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and look forward to getting another one out for you guys. Thank you.